Our government could have saved so many women, but Jeffrey Epstein was too important and those women didn't matter. Why? Well, we matter now. We are here today and we are speaking and we are not going to stop speaking.
You have a choice. Stand with the truth or with the lies that have protected predators for decades.
Señores, ya es oficial. Donald Trump ya no puede esconderse, ya no puede distraer, ya no puede encubrir este escándalo con Jeffrey Epstein. Es precisamente por eso que la Casa Blanca está en modo pánico. El día de hoy, a pesar de todos sus intentos por querer detener todo esto, las sobrevivientes de Epstein hablaron públicamente en una conferencia de prensa que está reventando este caso por completo. Lo impactante no es solo que las sobrevivientes en sí hayan contado sus historias, sino que además soltaron una bomba, y es que hablaron de la famosa lista oculta de clientes de Epstein, la misma que Trump no quiere que salga a la luz. Esta revelación, amigos, ha dejado la Casa Blanca temblando por completo. Pero antes quiero que primero veamos lo que dijo Lawrence O'Donnell anoche sobre un nombre que es clave en esta historia. Y esa es Ghislaine Maxwell, la cómplice de Epstein, y bueno, cómo su relación con Trump sigue sacudiendo este escándalo.
The worst thing about it is the laughter. That's the part that the news reports haven't told you about. There was a lot of laughter. They all laughed. And no one laughed more than Ghislaine Maxwell. In 9 hours of what turned out to be casual conversation spread over a Thursday and a Friday in Florida, the single sickest reaction you could have in that discussion of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's sex crimes was laughter, and they all did it. Ghislaine Maxwell laughed the most, joined by her 3 criminal defense lawyers, and their laughter.
Con esto nos queda clarísimo. Donald Trump no toma esto en serio. Es más, nadie en su administración lo hace, y la mayoría de los republicanos tampoco. Para ellos es más como un juego político, ¿no? Una burla. Quieren pasar la página lo más rápido posible. Eso es precisamente lo que hace que sea tan valioso que estas sobrevivientes hayan alzado la voz y hayan expuesto lo que Trump quiere ocultar: la lista de Epstein.
We have some breaking news right now. One of the Epstein survivors speaking at the largest ever rally of Epstein survivors right behind me just announced that the survivors are going to be confidentially compiling a list of names. Since the Trump administration won't release the Epstein client list, they're going to compile a confidential list of names by survivors for survivors, outlining every individual responsible and involved in Epstein and Maxwell's horrific crimes over the many years. They are fighting back. They are making their voices heard. Right now, today, the survivors need to be heard. There are over a dozen survivors here today. Shortly, we're going to have a press conference with Republicans and Democrats from the House of Representatives. I'm going to be asking them questions about what they see happening next. There's a major push to release the files on Capitol Hill, and right now, these survivors are not backing down. Keep spreading their voice.
Nada que Trump, ni Mike Johnson, ni James Comer pueden hacer para frenar a estas víctimas. Ellas mismas están armando su propia lista con los nombres de quienes estuvieron más cerca de Epstein. Y sí, señores, Donald Trump aparece en ella. Ni siquiera un eventual perdón a Ghislaine Maxwell, que por cierto mintió bajo juramento, pues solo para proteger a Trump, podrá detener que esto salga a la luz. Pues bueno, hoy vimos cómo contaban sus historias con un coraje impresionante. Quiero que veamos alguno de estos testimonios. Atentos.
Worst part is that the government is still in possession right now of the documents and information about that could help me remember and get over all of this maybe and help me heal. They have documents with my name on them that were confiscated from Jeffrey Epstein's house and could help me put the pieces of my own life back together. But I don't have any of it. And I know the same is true for many of these women. We are here to support this bill today, not only for transparency, but for the American people. But if the government is going to release these documents to the public, describing the crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein and others, the least that they can do is give me my documents that they have about me. The other survivors deserve the same respect from our government. While our identifying information must be redacted to the public, it is equally important to provide the victims themselves with unredacted information. I will never forget when the FBI agent showed up in my door in 2008. Jeffrey Epstein hired a lawyer to represent me, or more like to represent him, I like to say. I couldn't ask any questions, and I had no idea what was going on. I was terrified. Until today, I think most of us are still terrified. I thought somebody was going to kill me. I thought something was going to happen to my sister or my mother. It went further out to even maybe thinking something would happen in Brazil with my family. And then one day, the lawyer said that everything was just going to go away. Like nothing happened. I didn't need to testify. When I asked him why, he gave no explanation. That was it. So why? Why was I never called to testify then? We could have saved so many women. We could have saved so many lives from being abused. Why did he get away with it in 2008? Why was he able to go on in the abuse with hundreds of girls after the Florida investigation? Why didn't they let me testify to help stop him? Our government could have saved so many women, but Jeffrey Epstein was too important and those women didn't matter. Why? Well, we matter now. We are here today and we are speaking and we are not going to stop speaking.
You have a choice. Stand with the truth or with the lies that have protected predators for decades. I am no longer weak. I am no longer powerless. And I'm no longer alone. And with your vote, neither will the next generation be. President Trump, you have so much influence and power in this situation. Please use that influence and power to help us, because we need it now and this country needs it now. Thank you.
Oh, I'll answer that. Mr. President Donald J. Trump, I am a registered Republican, not that that matters because this is not political. However, I cordially invite you to the Capitol to meet me in person so you can understand this is not a hoax. We are real human beings. This is real trauma.
What does it feel like emotionally to hear that?
Devastating.
It's being gutted from the inside out. Not that I would know what that feels like, but I imagine it's the anxiety buildup with the depression and the survival mode, and then your nervous system goes limp and ironically is shot. And it feels like you just want to explode inside because nobody, again, is understanding that this is a real situation. These women are real. We're here in person. To say that it's a hoax is just not... Please humanize us. I would like Donald J. Trump and every person in America and around the world to humanize us, to see us for who we are and to hear us for what we have to say. There is no hoax. The abuse was real. Now, what goes on behind closed doors, I can't speak for that. What happens around the world politically, I cannot speak for that. But I am here with all of these women, including our attorneys, and I would be more than happy to meet with him, and I will meet him halfway.
You are a person who has chosen to serve in an elected position to stand up for those you represent who cannot always stand up for themselves. We are those people. We are the Americans that you promised to protect, and we need your help. Please, President Trump, pass this bill and help us. Make us feel like our voices are finally being heard. Thank you.
The Washington establishment is asking the American public to believe something that is not believable. They're asking you to believe that two individuals created hundreds of victims and they acted alone, and that the DOJ has no idea of who else might have been involved, that nobody else did anything that rose to a criminal enterprise. The American people know that's not true. Now, the Speaker of the House just offered a fig leaf to my colleagues. They're going to vote on a non-binding resolution today that does absolutely nothing. I appreciate the efforts of my colleague James Comer, who's leading the Oversight Committee. They may find some information, but they're allowing the DOJ to curate all of the information that the DOJ is giving them. If you've looked at the pages they've released so far, they're heavily redacted. Some pages are entirely redacted. And 97% of this is already in the public domain. So I'm calling on my colleagues, be one of the next two who sponsors this discharge petition. I think it's shameful that this has been called a hoax. Hopefully today we can clear that up. This is not a hoax. This is real. There are real survivors. There are real victims to this criminal enterprise. And the perpetrators are being protected because they're rich and powerful and political donors to the establishment here in Washington, D.C. So today we're standing with these survivors and we're giving them a voice, and I want to close by thanking them. They are brave. I hope they encourage other survivors to come forward.
Donald Trump no lo toma en serio, no le importa. Al parecer a ciertos republicanos tampoco. Ellos son este discurso vacío de pensamientos y oraciones, para después salir adelante como si nada. Se quejan de un supuesto sistema de justicia de 2 niveles, cuando, señores, su líder es el que enfrenta cargos, pero nunca hablan de cómo los ricos y los poderosos simplemente encuentran la manera de escapar. Es lo que pasó con Epstein, es lo que pasó con Maxwell, es lo que está pasando con Trump, otra vez. Al final, Trump y el movimiento MAGA siempre protegen a los millonarios y nunca al pueblo. Por eso, señores, es vital poder seguir hablando de este encubrimiento, seguir recordando los crímenes de Donald Trump. Ahora bien, señores, el tema de las víctimas, de las sobrevivientes, exponiendo todo esto, no fue lo único que sucedió en la mañana, porque en la mañana el Congreso de los Estados Unidos tuvo sucesos que nadie esperó. Y es que ciertos aliados de Trump, ciertos republicanos, como lo es Marjorie Taylor Greene, como lo es Lauren Boebert o Nancy Mace, se rebelaron contra la Casa Blanca para apoyar la votación que quiere liberar, pues, los archivos secretos de Jeffrey Epstein. Los mismos nombres que normalmente defienden a Trump lo desafiaron abiertamente. Para que puedan entender, señores, un poco el contexto, en el Congreso hay un cierto movimiento bipartidista, y este es liderado por Thomas Massie, ojo, republicano, y por Ro Khanna, que es demócrata. Lo que ellos quieren hacer es obligar al Departamento de Justicia a que liberen finalmente todos, sin excepción, nada de tanda por tanda, todos los archivos de Epstein. Y bueno, la sorpresa es que varias figuras del ala dura trumpista decidieron respaldar esta iniciativa, a pesar de que la Casa Blanca de Trump está presionando para frenarla.
So this has been the Trump damage control playbook, and there have been a lot of parts of it, but the victims and survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are not letting it go. And neither are members of Congress. Today, 10 survivors of Epstein's abuse spoke about their experiences behind closed doors with members of the House Oversight Committee. Some of them are among a group of survivors who are expected to speak to reporters tomorrow, alongside Republican Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky and California Democrat Ro Khanna, who will both be with me here in just a minute. The two men are leading a bipartisan push in the House for the government to release what it knows about the Epstein case. And of course, there was Massie's tactic from just a few hours ago. It's called a discharge petition, where you can get a majority of House members to sign on. So he has a bill in the House that would compel the Department of Justice to release all of its files in Jeffrey Epstein. The bill has been held up in committees. Massie's procedural motion would essentially force that bill to the House floor for an up or down vote if he can get a majority of members to sign on. And if Massie and Khanna can succeed in getting half the House to add their names to that discharge petition, Congress could vote to release the Epstein files in the next few weeks. Congressman Thomas Massie is a Republican in Kentucky. Congressman Ro Khanna is a Democrat of California. And they join me now. It's good to have you gentlemen both here. I want to start with you, Congressman Khanna, because you were able to speak to some of these survivors today in a closed-door session of the House Oversight Committee, and I wonder if you could just tell us how that went.
Well, I was not in the room because I want the survivors to share their own stories tomorrow, and for it to be clear that neither Congressman Massie or I spoke to them. But from what I heard from colleagues, it was harrowing, it was disgusting. People came out in tears. And what we need to remember is this is not partisan. This is not anti-Trump. This is about standing with survivors. This is about protecting kids. This is about morality. It's something that unites progressives, independents, moderates, and MAGA supporters. And tomorrow is going to be a moral and spiritual reckoning for this country.
Congressman Massie, this House Speaker Mike Johnson clearly would rather that this not happen. I think it's a fair thing to say. I want to play you his response to the House discharge petition today and get your response to it in terms of how you understand where things stand. Here's what Mike Johnson had to say earlier.
So the discharge petition from Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, I hope I'm using the right word, will ripen soon?
Well, no, I guess it would if they get the right signature.
If they get the signature,
but it's now a moot point. It's not even necessary. I mean,
you don't think it's going to happen?
There may be a floor vote of one measure or another. We have our own resolutions to do all this, but I don't. It's sort of not necessary at the point because the administration is already doing this.
So that's the line that the administration is already doing everything. So there's no purpose in this. Are you ready to throw in the towel?
No, it's hardly a document release. Most of the documents they released are already publicly available. And what Mike Johnson is doing by having his own resolution is to give political cover to those people who aren't supporting the effort by Ro Khanna and I. But here's the problem. When people go through this trove of documents, the political cover is going to go away and they're going to be exposed once again. I think you were right when you said this is the equivalent of the Pam Bondi binders being handed out. They're only going to increase the outrage. And in the meantime, you've got these survivors who are still not getting their justice. By the way, Mike Johnson has panned the legislative effort by Ro Khanna and I, saying it's poorly drafted. But he took 3 pages out of our bill and put them verbatim in his bill. Completely cribbed them, but he took the teeth out of it is what he did. So he's got a meaningless resolution to provide a fig leaf to the people who are afraid to stand up for these survivors.
Congressman Khanna, are there good faith concerns to be had here? It strikes me there are about the fact that normally when a criminal investigation is closed or it's reached its end, right, that people that may have come up in the course of that investigation are not publicly released because there's genuine reputational damage that can come even in the incidental mention or uncorroborated claims. Are you concerned about that at all?
Sure, it's a reasonable concern. First, the resolution protects the identity of all victims. It protects against the release of sensational acts. And the reality is, given that rich and powerful men who abused underage girls have basically had impunity, and that this has gone on for over a decade, well before Donald Trump was there, and that we have ignored victims, and that the President of the United States ran on releasing the files, and that the Attorney General said that there's a client list and the files need to be released, we need to have the overarching value of trust in government be there. And in this case, as an exception, we should release everything and trust the American people to make a distinguishing discernment between someone who got a scholarship grant from Epstein and someone who was at a sex party for Epstein engaged in sex trafficking.
Congressman Massie, one of the things that I find so striking here is that the Bureau of Prisons had to actively sign a waiver to move Ghislaine Maxwell to a facility that is so low security that by the department's own regulation, she cannot be in. And that happens after she met with Todd Blanche and she said that, Donald Trump was always a perfect gentleman. Isn't there a role for some congressional oversight here about how exactly that came about?
Oh, absolutely. This is unprecedented, the kind of treatment that she's been given. I think the best way to clear President Trump's name is to release all the files. I actually don't think he's done anything criminal. I think he may be covering for some rich and powerful people that are friends of his. And in fact, some of those billionaires are running ads against me in Kentucky right now. One of them is in Epstein's Black Book. So we're getting close to the center of power here.
Sin duda alguna, esto es un golpe durísimo al control que Trump intenta mantener dentro del Partido Republicano. Solo creo que pensemos en esto. Si incluso legisladores que han construido toda su carrera política defendiendo a Trump, ahora dicen que los archivos de Epstein tienen que salir a la luz, es porque la presión pública y moral es demasiado grande para seguir ocultando esto. Donald Trump siempre ha tratado de querer minimizar el tema, incluso se ha beneficiado de aliados como Mike Johnson, que es el presidente de la Cámara, el cual intenta frenar esta votación. Pero el hecho de que, por ejemplo, Boebert, Green y Mace se sumen a esta causa, ya nos muestra que esto ya no es sostenible para ellos. Ya no pueden seguir protegiendo estos secretos que implica a poderosos amigos de Trump o incluso a él mismo. Claro, sé que algunos dirán, no, esto no es contra Trump, que solo es justicia. Y puede que en parte sea cierto, ¿no? Por el tema de la transparencia. Pero, amigos, no hay que engañarnos. Cada paso hacia la transparencia, en el caso de Epstein, es un paso que acerca la lupa hacia las conexiones políticas y económicas que Trump, pues, ha querido enterrar. Nos queda muy claro que la Casa Blanca de Trump está haciendo todo lo posible por bloquear esta votación, porque hay reportes de mensajes, hay presiones directas a congresistas para que no firmen. Y aquí es donde entra pues esta contradicción que se vuelve escandalosa. No que supuestamente Trump era el que prometía drenar el pantano, exponer la corrupción de las élites, porque ahora pues su administración está luchando desesperadamente porque la verdad sobre este no salga. Estamos hablando de víctimas que llevan décadas esperando justicia. Y negar la publicación completa de estos archivos, amigos, es perpetuar la impunidad de los ricos, de los poderosos, los que se beneficiaron en un sistema de explotación. Los archivos de Epstein van a publicarse, señores, tarde o temprano. Caiga quien caiga. Bueno, quiero saber qué opinan ustedes. ¿Creen que Marjorie Taylor Greene, Laura Boebert, Thomas Macy se sumaron por convicción real? ¿O será que lo hicieron solo porque saben que la presión pública tal vez los iba a arrastrar de todas formas? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme, señores. Recuerden, dale like, comparte el contenido y suscríbete a nuestro canal. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.